do I have everything set here? Is that right? And there's a thing and stuff. And then I think I'm supposed to hit this button. Is that the one? It does the thing and it gets me running. And then, hey there, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be in your part of the world. Welcome back to Learn C# with CSharpFritz. My name is Jeff Fritz. You can find me on the internet, on the Twitter, the YouTube, the Twitch, GitHub. I am CSharpFritz in all the places. It's so good to see you. It's sunny out here in Philadelphia. Looking out there, look at that. It's beautiful outside. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. Somebody should make a TV show named after that. Let me say hello to the folks in the chat room. They are right over here. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and Twitch. Let me catch up over there. Hello, Brent is here on YouTube. Hey, Brent, with a couple questions to get us started. Let me finish greeting folks, and we'll come back to that. Napalm Codes, good morning to you. Dapper SW, hello to you. Solo Gamer, how you doing there? Come on here today instead of Twitch. Came on to YouTube instead of Twitch. How's everyone? Want to learn more about components? Fantastic. I'm on your 70-inch Samsung TV. Oh my. Hello out there, people in large television land. It is I. And we're going to learn today. Wow, thank you. Very cool to hear that I'm on the big screen. Thindall is here. Hello. Greetings to you. Robson Previato on Twitch. How's it going there? Marcelo's here from Brazil as well. Hello, hello. You're falling in love with Blazor. That's great. Let me know, what is it you like about Blazor? Maybe there's more that we can showcase, we can go after and show off there. I had somebody tell me the other day that that they were kind of sketchy about using Blazor because they have so much already invested in React. And I feel like there's an opportunity there for us to do some React and Blazor content. Now, I'm not a React expert, so I'm going to spend some time reading up and learning up on it so that I can do some content about React and Blazor, mixing and matching together. It's an amazingly well-placed window in my house. Right? It overlooks the city skyline and everything. It's beautiful. Look at it right there, right? Oh, it's amazing. You can smell the fresh air, hear from inside the computer and all this. It's wow. Gosh, you might even be able to hear the birds and no, you can't. It's all a green screen. This is fake. Oh, I tell you, some of these folks love having a good time. How do you get a hat like that? This was made special for me by our friend Fierce Kittens. I'm in glorious Samsung UHD, almost life size. How do you know how big I am? Hey, good morning, Guacamole. Good to see you on Twitch. Hello to, is that Jawaid in Karachi, Pakistan. Good evening to you in Pakistan. Thank you for staying up and tuning in with us. Hope you're having a fantastic evening. Now, if Microsoft had a way to reuse React components, corner the market. We do. More on that in a future episode after I have some time to study up. So good to see everybody. Thank you so much. Let me back up. Brent had a question here. I'm not going to use Tags app today to kind of curate questions. I'm just going to scan back and forth. Brent had a question here about a basic overview of component structure and how cascading values work. Here's the deal, Brent. And I should put the timer up. I usually have a 40-minute timer up here for us to do this type of AMA. Components are built in Razor files. They have the exact same syntax as Blazor pages. And you can inject content into them. You can set parameters on them. Cascading parameters are a way for you to pass parameters from outer pages and outer components to inner ones. They capture, receive them, on only those components that put a parameter out there that's labeled with the cascading parameter attribute, and they're then available to be used. There are some challenges when you have components with cascading parameters that cross render modes. So if you have an outer page that is interactive server and an inner component that is interactive WebAssembly, it sometimes doesn't make it all the way through, and there are some challenges and issues there that you're going to want to figure out how to resolve. I want to do a little bit more research before I speak more on that with the Blazor team, but you can have challenges passing those components across render modes. Hello, Ratana in Cambodia. Is it Gianluca in Turin? Welcome, some folks in the late afternoon, early evening. Thank you so much for staying up and joining us here. Let me get some music playing in the background before I catch up with some more of the questions here. I'm going to go with Stream Beats Synthwave playlist. I love listening to the Stream Beats. And let's start with this. This is called Ebb and Flow. There it is. This is music that's DMCA free. It's royalty free. You can listen to it wherever you'd like. Check it out at streambeats.com. Harris Heller and his team of creators have done a great job making all sorts of genres of music available. I like listening to this music in the background because it's kind of groovy and fills the gap between the conversations. All right. Catching up here. Napalm says cornering the market might be an exaggeration. Yes. There are compelling ways to mix and match and reuse those. There are many JavaScript purists out there, and in the front-end developers, no, they're not C# developers. And what's interesting is we now see JavaScript developers, there's quite the debate going on right now about JSON format and comments. Something that in the .NET ecosystem, when we use the JSON format, it ignores comments immediately. No problems asked. You don't have to use comments, but if you choose to use comments, it properly ignores them. It doesn't affect your format at all. JavaScript folks, the Bun framework is starting to allow comments in their configuration files. JavaScript developers are not happy about this at all. How dare you allow comments in files? Like, okay, is this really where you're going to it doesn't affect, is this really where you're going to fight? It doesn't affect the execution. You can still point to a JSON collection and say, execute that, and it gives you back the real objects for that. It doesn't affect your code unless you're actually parsing and reading and pulling out text from there. You hit a secret project area, .NET Dev Nova says. You changed the name back to Nova. Oh, okay. In summary, Blazor is amazing. I'm not going to disagree. Hey, Otto, let's talk about cascading parameters and render modes, how to fix. The best thing that I can tell you is don't use it as a cascading parameter. Use it as a direct parameter, and it will pass it properly. The cascading parameter, it's something that it should work across render modes. Like, that's the promise. It doesn't. Another way to work with it would be to put things into local storage in the browser so that it is available when you get to the next internal thing, and grab it out of local storage and bring it across. That's right, Eric. React is a JavaScript framework. So there's more than just that. There are React templates in the .NET tools that will allow you to build with Blazor and interop with React. Marcelo on YouTube says, I'm a full-stack developer React with C# and .NET, and I understand the skepticism surrounding Blazor. But in these early stages of my studies, I've seen many similarities with React that have made learning it much easier. You're right, Marcelo, and I'm going to agree with you that there are a lot of similarities. Blazor is on its fifth version, its fifth patch, It's picking up speed. And the thing that folks need to understand is Blazor is intended to not just give you C# in the browser, but intended to give you extreme flexibility in how you build and work with your code using an already existing .NET ecosystem. So just like React has latched on and built out an amazing ecosystem around the Node and JavaScript communities, you're seeing that happen with Blazor, and it's picking up speed. Blazor inside of native applications, just like React Native tries to do, Blazor inside of native applications is a great experience as well. There's more and more coming. .NET Dev Nova asks, can you mix and match Blazor Hybrid Maui with native Maui screens? Yes. And we started doing a bit of that last week on my other streams with the Tags app application, taking Tags app, putting it into a .NET Maui app, and adding native Maui components around it. Oh, yes. And you're going to see more of that on those streams. Next week I'm out of town. It'll be in May. I'll be getting back into that on my other streams. Next week I won't be here. I will be out of town for the week. I'll be at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital doing some charity work there, helping them talk about fundraising and helping out with various things, learning and planning different ways that we can interact with St. Jude in the year ahead. Continuing here, Marcelo says, which makes it much easier to invest in Blazor without losing focus on React. Totally agree. And Marcelo, there are ways to build with Blazor as WebAssembly components and expose them without a user interface and use the React user interface. I need to spend more time on that. Comments are the hill that JavaScript folks want to die on. Yeah. Cool, Otto. Yeah. There's no skepticism. There's a lot of stuff to understand and improve. Yes. React is not a framework. Really? Tell me more, Gianluca. Debugging issues with Blazor. So consider when you're debugging Blazor, is it running on the server? Is it running in the browser? Where you attach the debugger, the process that you attach the debugger to, different. Could be different. Could be interesting. Guacamole is just starting with Blazor. That's great. They say they recently spent too many hours trying to figure out why I couldn't add a JS file reference to app Blazor. Is there an easy way to know what type of Blazor project you have created in a render mode? Is there an easy way to be able to tell that? Yes. I'm curious to know more about why you couldn't add a JavaScript file there, Guacamole. Let's dig into that a little bit, because I'm going to show you some of that today on stream, because we're going to do JavaScript interop. You can tell what render mode you're in because it's either hard-coded on the routes tag in AppRaiser, the header outlet tag, or it's at the top of whatever page or component you're on. It's listed as a render mode directive. It can also appear as a render mode parameter, a render mode attribute on a component, but there is no kind of hint sitting in Visual Studio. This is something that I'd love to see somebody build as an extension for Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code that looks at the current file and walks up the stack that it's referenced and places an icon, a watermark in the bottom right corner that shows that it's either that it's one of WebAssembly, server, auto, server-side rendered, or undeclared, because you have components that might be undeclared, and depending on how they're being referenced, will trigger appropriate interactions. So, but for a Blazor page, you should immediately know what model it's in. Immediately know. Thank you, Napalm. Yes, I'll be at St. Jude next week. We made a donation last year of 50 computers, 50 Raspberry Pi 400 computers to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. so kids could learn about technology, learn about software. I'm looking forward to seeing them and seeing what's happening there. How do you evaluate this assembly? Mustafa, I need more context. Quick tip. There's a lot of messages coming in. Try to avoid using pronouns. This, it, that. Try to avoid using those. Be very clear about exactly what you're asking a question about, because I'm catching up between messages here, and I just want to make sure that I get the full context of your message. So Mustafa, if you can give me a little bit more information, I'll follow up here. No CSharpFritz next week, but at least a worthy cause, right? There may be some live streams with some of our streaming friends from St. Jude next week. You might see me on, particularly on the Twitch channel on Twitch. You might see me over there trying to gather up some of the creative folks and maybe do a live stream from there. I had the idea of bringing the Nintendo Switch and maybe doing an in-person Mario Kart race with some of the other Twitch streamers there. Yeah, but we'll see what we can pull off there. On YouTube, BC asks, do we have a form builder in Blazor like the tons we have in React? How does my team go around building one? Any pointers, guidance? What do you mean by a form builder? Help me out there. What's a form builder? What do you mean? Something along the lines of Survey.js. I'm not familiar with Survey.js. There are form components that you can use. Form library, a free and open source library. Survey creator. No code survey builder allows drag and drop form creation. This feels very buildable. This feels extremely buildable. I'm going to take a note on that, BC. I like the sound of that. We don't have a no-code, low-code tool to build forms with Blazor. Let me take that and look into it, because I think that sounds very doable as an open source project that folks can get on and build and do something very interesting with. You often get, .NET Nova says, I often get confused between server and Blazor normal, but the new web templates help. Even then, when we get into the source code, remind me and I'll walk through and show you where you can find it, but you really have to look for it. And it can be confusing. Confusing in the sense of you might be writing code in one file, and because you can't see the render mode either in your file or you're so far down the file that you can't see it at the top, you can kind of lose your position. So that is a thing. But yeah, BC, what I'm seeing for a form library over here in Survey.js, you can, with code, build that with Blazor. There are input elements that will do that. So you have one React Pro who's excited about Blazor. Awesome. Let me see. Scrolling here. Web Dev Guy on Twitch says that donation of Pi devices is awesome. I love that idea with St. Jude. Thank you. Do I have it here? Yeah. So the Raspberry Pi, typically when you think of Raspberry Pi, right, it's the little... Do I have that one? Yeah. Right? It's the little... I have... This one is pinned inside of... Right? It's this little... Oh, look, the green screen's helping me here. It's this little circuit board. I have mine tacked into a device with a touchscreen in the front that I've used for various demos and things. But the Pi 400 is a full keyboard with connectors at the top. So you can just plug in a USB-C power, plug in a mouse. It's got wired network over here. it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on board also, and there's right here a couple of micro HDMI connectors. So you can connect it up to a TV, connect it up to a regular computer display, nothing to it. And it comes with the mouse also. So all you have to do is connect it up to a TV and you're off and running with a little keyboard device that's pretty sturdy, right? And when you think about giving a computer device to kids to learn about, like, that's pretty good because it's got a nice keyboard on it. This is, of course, American English keyboard, but nice and sturdy, very little place for kids to spill into. Runs off of a micro SD card. So I'm a big fan of what the folks at the Raspberry Pi Foundation are doing. They are another charity that I support. So I encourage you, if you have charity funds to spend to help tech companies, the Raspberry Pi Foundation, between their educational programs, their outreach to kids, and the other ways they engage, it's a great organization to support. Let's see. Guacamole says, turns out that I had created a Blazor web app with render mode server. And location per page. Yes, this configuration seems to not allow... Nope, you can absolutely add JavaScript file references. Guacamole, the base... the Blazing Pizza Workshop sample that we're going to show today is exactly that configuration. We're going to talk through and do exactly those things. I'm going to keep an ear open. I'm going to keep an eye open in chat for questions and interactions with you as I show adding the JavaScript interop, because I think what I'm going to step through today is going to answer exactly your problem. All right, and we can dive in that a little bit. I should dress up like Hagrid. So I do fundraising for St. Jude in the month of May. And there will be redemptions, there will be goals where I will dress up as, I have barnyard animal onesies. I even have a flamingo inflatable costume to wear. And I have a green screen Clippy costume that I wear on stream and teach with as well. Let's see, BC Form Builder they mean should allow my users to be able to make their own forms, surveys, something like there are components on the left, a toolbox that you can drag and drop on a designer. Yeah, yep, okay. So I hear what you want as a Blazor tool. Why not just use Excel? Excel Online has this feature. If you're an Excel subscriber, if you're a Microsoft 365 subscriber, that feature is available. Not only that, but it'll drop the entries into an Excel worksheet. And if you're a Microsoft 365 subscriber, you have access to logic apps. And is Flow still a thing? I forget. But then you can have, when elements get dropped onto Excel, into that Excel spreadsheet, take actions on those appropriately. There's a lot of options there, and you can, because you're tied into Microsoft 365 using Excel, you can also constrain who interacts with it. So, really cool idea to have a form builder. Not going to argue with you on that. I think if you need a general purpose solution, Excel in Microsoft 365 Online has all of those features and integrations with other things in the Microsoft ecosystem. Or you can use if this, then that, and things like that to low code, programmatically interact with, publish things into Power Apps, publish things out to a Power BI dashboard, and interact with them that way. Lots of options available, but I do like the idea of a form builder based in Blazor. There was a good MVC one years ago you could buy on Code Canyon. Okay. .NET Dev Nova wants to make a donation next month out of whatever new job. Oh my gosh. Thank you, .NET. Talk to me next month. So I do things where for fundraising where we reach a milestone, and I'll color my beard funny colors, blue, purple. We did silver at one point last year, rose gold, rainbow. We've done those things, and I'm going to do a hot wing challenge again this year. I've also got some guest speakers that'll join us for stream, and we'll do some coding together, a little AMA with them. More on that over on my channel coming up in the next 2 weeks. Zyber Surfer on YouTube, not really a question. I found it disappointing how hard it is to make new Blazor components out of existing ones. Tell me more about that, Zyber Surfer. What challenges are you running into? Because they shouldn't be that hard. Help me out. Let's talk about that, because we're going to make a map component out of an existing OpenStreetMap map. That's easy for me to say. Out of an existing OpenStreetMap JavaScript library today on stream. So help me out. Let's talk about that. Robson asks, is it possible to install any version of Windows on that Raspberry? There used to be Windows IoT. I don't know if that's still a thing. There used to be Windows IoT you could install. Hey, Zig, you love the hat? Thank you. Thank you. Our friend Fierce Kittens, you can find her on YouTube, on Twitch. Fierce Kittens with a Z at the end. She has an awesome embroidery machine and systems set up. She does a bunch of things on, it's not Etsy, it's on her own website now. She makes bags, she makes embroiders a whole bunch of stuff, and I asked her if she can embroider some hats for me, and she made this one. On YouTube, Spicy Thunder says hello to you. Napalm says, I knew you were messing with this, but what is the difference between .NET Aspire hosting packages versus client packages? Is hosting literally just the server component, and client is for consumers of the host? You got it, Napalm. Yep, that's exactly what .NET Aspire is. So .NET Aspire, if you were watching on this channel yesterday, .NET Aspire, David Fowler, Damian Edwards, were talking about and introducing and talking through .NET Aspire. It is a framework to help developers build distributed applications. I did not say it is a framework to help .NET developers. It helps all developers. If you're working with .NET, you're going to have a first-class experience. There's more coming for folks outside of it. We're in the early previews yet. They haven't even done an RTM of this thing yet. So what you're going to see is .NET Aspire allows you to implement service discovery, logging, tracing, and run all of your projects, all of your things for your distributed application from one executable, from one startup project that's written in .NET, in C#. So instead of configuring all the elements for your distributed application inside of a JSON file or, heaven help you, a YAML file, you can write it with code. By writing configuration, by defining configuration with C#, that means you can put if blocks around things. You can reach into different locations to read configuration and build your distributed application appropriately. And that what we call the app host project, as Napalm hints at, is where you define the various services that you as a developer want to start up and manage with your application system. Then, inside the various projects that you're writing the code in, you consume those services using the other client packages. So, to your point, there is a MySQL package, hosting package, that will start up the MySQL database server inside of a Docker container locally on your workstation. Inside the project, the website, the service where you're actually writing code, there is a client library, Pomelo MySQL Client Entity Framework Core, something like that, that actually knows how to consume that content, that server, work with it, and give you access to that data. So those are the two differences between the different types of the two different types of projects. Yeah, thank you, Surly Dev, for sharing her name. Tremendous respect for Fierce Kittens. She's an amazing developer. She works with the Xbox team, and she might have worked on a game or two that you've played out there. Particularly if you played, the Warhammer MMO. She worked on that, and I mean, I'm dropping cred for her here. And the Madden games 2019, 2018, somewhere around there, maybe 2012. I forget which version, but if you played some of the Madden video games, American football video games, from about 10 years ago, she worked on those as well. Let me see here. Rare Panda on YouTube says, crazy journey we had with Blazor. I can't wait to read this. Okay. Started to think more in components and did it this way. Was not fast. Bad hot reload. Looked into deeper documentation. Don't use components. Completely disagree, Rare Panda. Compiler, no. Completely disagree. And I'll show you today, because I've got things broken out across many components. At compile time, it shouldn't be that much of an issue. Hot reload at the command line using .NET Watch is really good. So I'd like to hear more about what your application looked like that you were having a problem with. The samples, the demos, you can go back to the other videos in this series that have been running very, very nicely with .NET 8. So you thought that was a Preview 5 change. The change with Aspire Preview 5 was they broke out the hosting packages. So there's now more of them more discreetly describing the various services. Because, the Aspire folks went from at announcement in November, 5 months ago, 6 months ago now, they only had like 3 or 4 services they supported, to now there are dozens of services that they support that you can plug into .NET Aspire. So the change is they broke out, and there's many, many more of them now, and you have to discreetly go and grab and include them. They're not included by default. Here we go. On YouTube, Zybersurfer says, for example, changing which HTML class attribute is for a nav link required me to take the code from .NET and modify it, instead of being able to override methods or properties. Here's the way to do that, Zybersurfer. It just scrolled off here. Here's the way to do that. Ready? Make your class, your HTML class, a string, a property inside of your Blazor file. Then just change that string value. Change that string value whenever you want, and it will update that class appropriately. You don't need to override anything. Just set the value, right? A tag class equals @foo, and declare foo as a property, and just change the foo property whenever you want. And away you go. If you want to see more on that, we got about 10 minutes left here in the AMA. If you want to see more on that, remind me when I get to the code, and I'll do a quick demo. .NET Dev Nova says, couldn't ever understand the stats in Madden games. Just bashed buttons. I suppose for folks who aren't familiar with American football, and I am saying that because we do have an international audience. We saw a couple Brazilian folks, a couple folks from Europe, from Italy. So yes, I am saying American football, even though I'm a guy from the States here, guy from the East Coast of the States. It is a little bit trickier to understand than watching, association football, or what we crazy Americans call soccer. It's a little bit trickier to understand because of all the starting and stopping and the various types of players and assignments that they might have. It's amazing having an athlete that's 6'7", 350 pounds, that is an athlete on the same team as a guy who's 5'10" and 190 pounds soaking wet, but can run a 4.440. They're on the same team. They've got different jobs. You did that for a survey builder back in the MVC Razor days. Cool. Okay. Rare Panda is still using Blazor and hoping for better hot reload, but performance-wise, would be nice if a component doesn't slow things down. Rare Panda, components don't slow things down. Let's dig into that. I'll show you components today. They don't slow things down at all. You're not going to run into that. From Belfast. Oh my gosh. Where's I don't have my Guinness hat within reach here. I think it's in the box on the other side of my green screen here. But great to see you from Belfast. Hello. I've always wondered and thought it'd be fun when folks are writing messages, hey, like this, hey, I'm tuned in from wherever it might be, to create a little map with pins that show when folks shout out, here's where I'm watching from, to kind of show where people are watching from, kind of see that as they're watching. Be curious about it? Yeah, I'm curious. Rare Panda, I'm curious to see how you're experiencing components making your application slower, because that, from my experience, that's never been the case. So I'd love to see if you could extract a little bit of code that simplifies it, reproduces that scenario. I'd love if you could share some of that code with me on. There's a Blazor forum on my Discord server that you can check out, Discord CSharpFritz.com, and I'd love to know a little bit more about that and see what you've got there, because I think there's something else going on that we can address that will help your situation, and I want to make sure that if something isn't working properly, you get the help you need. Right. And I want to make sure folks are clear about that. I'm not here speaking because I want you to hear my voice or recognize me and whatnot. No, I'm here speaking because I want you to be successful. I'm a guy who knows how to write a little bit of code, knows the ins and outs of the programming languages and frameworks, and talks to the product team. I want you to be successful. So to be that conduit that can help you or take messages back to the product team to make things better, I absolutely want to help you with that, right? You have a lot of American football dropouts playing in teams now in Belfast. Oh, neat. Blazor watching from Zimbabwe. How you doing there, Innocent? Is it Tazeni? Hello? Just don't put the Dublin flag up. Oh, no. Zig is here from gloomy and cold Reykjavik. Oh, but it's warming up, right? Coming into that time of year in Reykjavik where it's going to be a little bit warm. Am I going to make some state management library video about Fluxor? So I talked about state management 2 or 3 videos ago in this series. You can go to the playlist, C# with CSharpFritz, and you can scan back in the playlist, and you'll see where I talk about it in Blazor. I don't specifically talk about the management libraries, Fluxor and whatnot. Let those folks who manage those libraries talk about those things. So I try to stay as close to on the bare metal, the base framework as possible. Honestly, I don't use Fluxor for anything, and for the applications that I've built, I haven't needed it. You know, it's not something that I've said, oh gosh, I can't build an application because I don't have. No. It's pretty easy to do state management. Pramod on YouTube says, render mode for interactive server experience with component integration issue. Okay, what kind of issue are you having? Vulcan no bite. Saludos, Nicaragua. Hello, welcome. Great to see you in Nicaragua. Looking forward to a .NET Aspire series. When can we expect that? Asked Cold Hands. So I have been told that we can renew, we can continue the series here. I expect to do for this series. Shoot, where did? Hang on. Wait a tick. For this series, I expect to do. Let me see. I expect to do maybe one more episode after this. Maybe one more episode after this. And I'm working on. So some of the folks at Microsoft have built an Aspire workshop. It's not exactly my cup of tea what they do with it. So I have different ways that I believe we can get education to you about a product, about a feature. So folks who are on who watched my stream yesterday have heard me talk about an example that I've been working on called the Big Dumb blog. The Big Dumb blog is the idea that we all know what a blog is. Very simple structure where you post articles and those articles get read out and they get displayed on screen. We can start with that because everybody knows what a blog is. Very simple object. And we can start to talk about adding architecture and making it more complex. And as we add complexity, introduce and work with other Aspire features. And eventually at the end of the workshop, at the end of the video series, we've got this very, very complex system that shows various architecture features, that shows off various Aspire components, how they interact, and how you can take advantage of that. So I'm probably going to start the Big Dumb blog series on these channels probably mid to late May is when we'll see that start up. So thank you for the question, Cold Hands, and it's going to be fun. .NET Dev Nova asks, what about testing Maui UI? Is there anything like Playwright for Maui UI? I don't know of anything off the top of my head. No. Hey, CCPRN on Twitch. Came back to C# and Blazor from doing Rust development for web, and the hot reload for .NET isn't perfect. No, it's not. Quite frankly, there's a lot of features that reload is actually trying to make work there. Between C#, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, there's 4 different programming languages that it's trying to evaluate and decide how to patch in the browser. Not trivial. It's a 9 out of 10 developer experience. Hey, thank you. They're using a MacBook, so I think Microsoft has done a good job of being available cross-platform, and they're watching from Oslo, Norway. Thank you so much for tuning in. Great to see you. I've wanted to go to Norway. I've been to Sweden, been to Stockholm a couple times. It'd be cool to get out to Norway, but no. Let me see here. Punetta, can I explain briefly why is pre-render mode useful? Fantastic question. Why is pre-render mode useful? Pre-render mode allows you to generate content that will be picked up by SEO, by search engines, right? You can optimize for the search engines so that it's loaded immediately. It will immediately be downloaded and rendered in the browser, so you don't have to worry about that code taking time to execute over in the browser. it'll be picked up by the social media sites. So if you link somebody through to a page that's pre-rendered server content, pre-rendered WebAssembly content, the social media sites, the Facebook attachment, the LinkedIn attachment, the Twitter attachment, the Discord or Slack attachments will get the pre-rendered content and be able to display that on those services. So that's a couple of the reasons why pre-render mode is so useful. Not to mention, like I said, folks don't have to wait to see that content first, and then the interactive mode will take over. Do I recommend to just stick with bare metal? No. I do a lot of work in containers. I don't do a lot of work in virtual machines. DevBox is definitely a thing that's up and coming. But I personally work on the bare metal on things. But I deploy and publish things on virtual machines, containers. Let's see. Juan Van, big and fun blog. No, big dumb blog. It's big, it's dumb, because you should never architect a blog with all the things that we're doing. And I want to make it clear from the get-go that we are purposefully over-engineering it to show features. Taking a simple application and over-architecting it will highlight and show those architecture capabilities without having to know a lot about the business logic inside the blog. Versus a complex business scenario where we have all kinds of business logic and things going on. A storefront is similar in that type of concept, but it has many different objects, entities that you might be working with. I don't want you to have to think about all those business entities. Gosh, do we have product? Can we sell products because we have products left in the warehouse? Is our remaining stock enough to sell and fulfill this order? What's the business rules around that? I don't want to even think about any of that. I want to get in and do the simple things that we already know how they work, how to interact with, and we can relate to because we all navigate to blogs and news sites all the time. So trying to simplify the application requirements so we can go crazy with all the architecture stuff is where I want to go with that. And I hope, and I'm going to test that with you on stream, I hope that conveys some of those capabilities a little bit easier. Hey, Dirtborn, hello on Twitch. I'm trying to build a timer in Blazor. Would I use C# or JavaScript TypeScript for such a task, since it will need to update UI? You can absolutely do that with C# with WebAssembly in the browser. Yes. You can do it with C# and interactive server. Yes. What are you trying to do with the timer? Are you trying to run something periodically? Are you trying to just display a countdown timer on the page? You may want to use JavaScript. The C# with Blazor works just fine. We've shown demos of that on the Blazor puzzle, actually. I think we did. So, have I already used Dapper AOT? No, I have not. Asks Volcano Bite. Mario, I'm at the end of my timer here, so let me wrap up. Can all my components have individual CSS, and is that okay, or should I use on performance a global one? Here's the deal. When you create CSS for a component, you create the the scoped CSS for a component. I don't think we've covered that in this. Maybe we should cover that today. When you create that scoped CSS, at build time, it all gets rolled into a global CSS file. There is no performance change. At build time, it just all gets concatenated together. So, not that big a deal. However, it might just be easier to manage in a global CSS file, because then you can do reuse across various components, which will drive down the amount of total CSS that you're managing. Yes, pre-rendering is super simple to host on a CDN. Well, you're not hosting on a CDN, but the CDN can can replicate and proxy for you. You're right. Yep. Dirtborn wants to make a timer to be a visual aid to show how much time is left for a task. To be able to reuse the timer to play a sound every 20 minutes and restart like a Pomodoro. Yeah, you can absolutely do that with a C# WebAssembly component. Yep. Setting up Blazor with Tailwind and the running Tailwind CSS compiler is almost trivial. Yes. We wish we did more on extension development and template development. Get Mads on here. Let me take template development as a topic. That might be something interesting to do. Should you use system timer class or should I use periodic timer? Depends. It's when you have WebAssembly. If somebody refreshes the page, if you're running in WebAssembly, you're going to lose your timer. So either persist it in the current state in local storage, or run on the server and pass through the updates because it's running isolated on the server. Okay? That's all the time for our AMA today. I love answering these questions. I love the feedback. I've got a couple items here about a form builder like Survey.js and template development logic as a potential future session. Multi-project templates. Like what you see in .NET Aspire is what I'm thinking. All right. So let's dig in a little bit. Let's go back to where we were. I forget where we were. I'm going to be running here and I'm going to use Visual Studio today. Let me get into... I'm not even in the right folder for this. My gosh. Let me take a quick look. I forgot to tag this. No, I'm not going to tag it till the end of today's session. The content, the samples for that we're working through for today's stream are... That's not the right page. Not there. Let me just grab it real quick here. This one. Yep, there it is. There are a series of tags in the repository for this. I will share the link there. It's on Twitch. The Restream bot should carry that over to YouTube. For those of you watching on YouTube, there it is. So you can click through and get to the samples, the source code that I'm going to show off here today. So let's take a look at this. Okay. So let me back up one. Yeah. To where we left off. And I will open Visual Studio to that project. And we'll dive in and start talking about a little JavaScript interop. A little bit of building with, yeah, that file isn't there. That's right. Yeah, a little bit of building with components and building components that we can reuse. Does Aspire run as a desktop app or a browser app? And does the amount of components the team created on the source code? Aspire is a framework, a distributed framework. It runs as a series of services, containers, inside on your desktop application. I don't understand the second half of your question. Dirtborn, drop me a line on the Discord server. Let's walk through it with you. Does it launch its own Kestrel service? Depends. Are you using Kestrel? if so, then yes, and several of them. It runs its own. It runs its own, at least for the dashboard that it manages. Let's let me just run the initial app here with .NET Watch, and we'll dive in. What? Oh, I had to fix global. Oh, let's do this first. I fixed this in my sample code here. Let me head over and let's start talking about the code over here. So, do I have a public Discord? Yes. Go to discord.csharpfritz.com. There we go. And it'll jump you right into my Discord. That URL should still work. I set up that redirect so that it should take you over there. Yep. Yep, there we go. So, and there is a Blazor forum there. You can ask questions, and I will help out there. There's the link to my Discord server that click through to it, and you should get in. We're going to start seeing this issue in the sample code that we were working with, where it's looking for the SDK version 80200, and the version that's now on my machine is 80300. Uh-oh. I don't add the Discord link because it's my personal Discord. There is a .NET team Discord that's out there as well, that things can kind of get lost in. There's a lot of different topics in there. There's a lot of noise. So if you want, like, and quite frankly, I don't pay attention to it. But if you want to reach out to me, you want to get some help from me first, quieter, a little bit more personal attention, you can reach out to my Discord. So this is a .NET thing. There's a version of the .NET command line tool that's referenced and stored in this global JSON file right here. And it just says, here's the SDK version that I expect. I expect to work with 80200. As you install new versions of Visual Studio, it's going to upgrade that. We use this global JSON file to kind of pin and say the contents of this folder and everything inside of it and below it run on this version of .NET. It's a good way to kind of force the version of a project and the tools you're working with. Exactly, Eric. So, we need to fix this so that it does allow us to do that type of sliding version like what we see with NPM packages and the like. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some extra entries in here like, yes, you can use pre-release versions, and yes, you can roll forward, and I want you to roll forward all the way to the latest minor version. So if I save that, jump back over here, you see it now is using the 80300 version because I have that in my prompt. It shows me what .NET version I'm on. So I'll save that, and now it has the correct version for it. This global JSON file is updated in the sample code so that you can work with that. The link to the Discord times out. Try it again. Try it in a different browser. I just tried it here in mine, and it routed through appropriately. Or maybe it's not going to. It literally just worked. Don't use it as an HTTPS. Oh, shoot. Try that version of the URL. There it goes. I'll fix the HTTPS on that. So. Okay. So I've got the global JSON squared away. And I can run the application now. Here we go. I'm actually going to split the panel here. Thank you. Okay. So here's the Blazing Pizza website. You can click through and you could say, hey, I'd like to order some pizza, and you're off and running. And I can remove pizzas from over here, no problem, right? I can add various toppings, place the order, and they appear here above me. And there's an order button right here that I can click to place that order. So, and last time we built this login capability up here, so I can log in and it will show me, here's a list of my previous orders. When I click through and I look at the tracking for this, there we go. I want to be able to see over here a map of exactly where my pizza is and be able to track and watch it being delivered. We're going to do this by adding a map component onto this page. And that component lives in a different project altogether. We're going to bring in that content and use it on this page. And that map is built with a JavaScript library. Now, this comes back to a little bit of that question that we had earlier. How do you add JavaScript files into this? I'm not going to be using SignalR in this project. We're just going to do some simple JavaScript refresh. And we already have it in there to do that anyway. Inside AppRaiser right now, there's only this reference to the Blazor JavaScript file. We need to add some of the other CSS and files in here so that we can load them appropriately and handle things for the various components that we're going to bring in here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Leaflet CSS right there. So this comes out of a specially formed URL here. Content Blazing Pizza Components Library Leaflet CSS. What the heck's with that? And where's _content? Here's the deal. Check this out. I've added another project. It's been in the Solution Explorer. We just haven't talked about it yet. Called Blazing Pizza Components Library. And inside of here, we have a map component, but we've also got a dub root folder. Inside there, we have some CSS and JavaScript libraries. If I want to use these inside of my project, first I add a reference from components library into my project. Then I can reference the contents of what's inside that dub root folder with a base folder of _content, the assembly name, Blazing Pizza Components Library, and then the folder structure to that file I'm looking for. Leaflet and Leaflet CSS. Okay. So I'm also going to grab and bring in some of those other scripts that are down there at the bottom for local storage delivery map. We'll eventually get to push notifications, but I'm going to bring that now anyway. So all I've done is add these script files, and the CSS to, this is AppRaiser running on the server. Okay, so to the question we had earlier, how do we get that running? Dragging a file would not create the script tag. I believe it. Dragging a file not creating the script tag appropriately. I totally believe that, right? If I bring this in, right, the link it creates is absolute reference. It's not the correct formatted _content. And if I grab the JavaScript and bring it in, it created the JavaScript, but it's the wrong address. So you need to use this syntax in order for it to find it. _content and the folder structure at that point. the other scripts and things that are in this project inside dub root, right? Open that up, right? There's my CSS. So CSS site CSS comes off right there, okay? Yes, kind of like how plugins work. You have your own CSS in dub root. Yep. So, okay, now with those couple things in here, I'm going to go into my order details page here, and I'm actually going to yank this. There's an issue that I'm running into with the HTTP context grabbing the user. I've taken that as a bug that I need to address, and I'm getting some help with that. But I'm going to add, right next to the order review that we see on the page here, I'm going to add a map over here using this map component right here. So I've got an element ID that's going to be my map. And when it runs, to some of the questions earlier about how do I integrate with JavaScript and get to use some things, I'm going to invoke this JavaScript method, delivery map show, and I'm going to pass in an element ID and a collection of markers to show. Now, how do we do that? We can inject into this component the JavaScript runtime. It's an interface that you should always request. IJS runtime gets you an instance of the JavaScript runtime. This way we can test and we can defer the JavaScript runtime based on where this component is running. It could be running on the server. It could be running in WebAssembly. You don't know. And there's a different type of JavaScript runtime that you're going to be handed depending on where it's running. Now, in either case, you can't interact and call JavaScript until after the component is rendered. Why? Because if the component isn't rendered yet, the JavaScript runtime isn't available to you yet. Think about it. If you're running on the server, it isn't until the component is painted on screen that you have access to the JavaScript runtime. While it initializes and sets parameters, it's all on the server. After it renders, it's in the browser, and then you can interact with the JavaScript runtime. With WebAssembly, theoretically, you could interact with it at any time, but it only makes the JavaScript runtime available to you after render. So this is our third event that's available inside of a Blazor page after render, right? The first two events, on initialize, and then on parameters set, right? They happen first. On initialized is first, then on parameter set, and on parameter set can happen multiple times. And then after render happens, because the parameters are set, the component is rendered, and then this is executed. Now, if there's changes to this component, like if we pass in a new set of markers, the parameter set is going to trigger again, which is going to update the content, potentially, and then on after render is going to run again. So we'll show or update again. So delivery map, you saw, I brought in delivery map right here as JavaScript. And inside my dub root, there's delivery map.js, and it's an OpenStreetMap library that goes and brings in and sets for an HTML element, sets a couple markers to show, and does a little bit of formatting. You can read through this JavaScript file later if you'd like. Let me see here. The main project shares the dub folder with class lib. Why do I have to specify content and assembly name? Because the class, you need to know which class library you're pulling that content from. So the question from Mario on YouTube is, why do I need to, in AppRaiser, use this syntax so that it knows which library to pull that out of? Because this file isn't actually sitting on disk. This file is embedded in a DLL. It's embedded in a NuGet package. So the Blazor runtime, I'm sorry, the Blazor runtime needs to know where to get it out of to bring it up. Hey, Sean, good to see you. Is it possible to use a similar approach in server-side rendering, since in server-side rendering, after render does not fire? Yes, it is. And now you have me questioning. When you inject the JavaScript runtime, there is a way to do it. Off the top of my head, I haven't done it yet, but there are ways to do that. I would need to dig and look at the documentation. I don't have an immediate answer for you, but yes, it is possible to use a similar approach. I think there's something in the docs about that. Puneta on YouTube asks, why do parameters set happen multiple times? Well, let me go back to the map. If I update the value of this markers parameter, right? If I put a carriage return in there, Fritz, so folks can see it. If I update that parameter, the onParameter set event will trigger multiple times. So let me show you, because we're going to do exactly that. So let me do this. I'm going to go into my imports over here, and I'm going to bring in, no, not attribute, using, thank you, Blazing Pizza Components Library, and I'm also going to bring in the map. So now I can use a map tag inside of my project. So I'm going to go up here to order details, and I have some sample code I'll just paste in there. So div class track order map, and there's my map component, and I'm passing in the order with status map markers. That comes out of my order with status that is going to be updated from the repository right here. This poll for updates is going to poll every 4 seconds and update order with status. So after that order is updated, it says state has changed, refresh the page if anything has changed, and if the markers have changed, it will update and reset that parameter, which would trigger an onParameter set, and then when parameter set is done, and we're not capturing it here, on after render will run. So, hey there, Dr. Cox. Juan Van, hello. So, now that I have those pasted in, save that change, Fritz. So, didn't update the screen just yet. Come here. Rebuild. I'm going to force a rebuild and refresh of it. .NET watch, reload, and here's my map. Okay. So I want to go back. There were a couple folks, there was somebody saying that components run slow. Like, and it's hard-coded to the same location for this demo. But it loads very, very quickly there. So when I go through and I do the polling, right? So I'll put in, right, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter what my location is here. Springfield, Illinois, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Place the order, and here's the map above me, right? I'll move that over so you can see. While it's preparing, the only marker it has is, well, here's where you are, right? And of course, we could do some sort of GPS lookup on my location. But for the purposes of this demo, it's hard-coded to Westminster here, just outside London, right? There's London, so you can see. And the markers are updating. So to the question about onParameter set, every 4 seconds, the marker updates. So it's doing the update and moving the marker across the map, because on after render is triggering, and you can see the code behind me is refreshing as the polling happens, and it's updating the map. All right. Yes, it yeah, you're right, Dirtborn, because it's just got 2 coordinates, and for the purposes of the demo, it's just moving directly between those 2 coordinates. Yeah. Yeah. So, simple concept that it's showing off here. So, it's drone delivery. There you go. So, there it is. We finished, delivery's completed, and the pizza coordinates are right here where I am. Okay? Not bad. Simple little sample, but we've got a component that uses a JavaScript library, and we've injected JavaScript so that it updates and uses a OpenStreetMap JavaScript library. Not bad. Let's back this off and go even simpler, right? Let's do a little confirmation dialogue. Like, when I order a pizza here, see the pizza there? When I remove the pizza, give me a little confirmation there when I click the X that, hey, are you sure you want to take this pizza out of your cart? Right? We know how to do JavaScript confirm, right? Confirm quotes, hey, do you want to remove this, you knucklehead? You know? And if the answer is yes, go and actually remove that item, right? We know how to do that in JavaScript, but we're gonna cross the streams here, if you allow me to invoke a little Ghostbusters. We're going to call into the JavaScript from .NET, and then, based on the response to that JavaScript, do something with our .NET code. Let's dig into that. So I'm going to go over to the home page, right? So this is running as WebAssembly. And what I'm going to do is I believe I've already got my JavaScript runtime injected here. I'm going to add a method to remove the pizza. So this should be JS runtime. Here we go. And I need a little confirm. I want to have a little confirm method out there to take care of this. So let me just create a class. I should have done this before. I meant to do this part first. Runtime extensions. I'll paste that in there. Turn this into file scope namespace. There we go. So I have a little method here called confirm that takes the JavaScript runtime and a message. And this is how we call JavaScript. Invoke async, and notice it has a bool generic here. We're going to expect a return value that's a Boolean, right? We're not just emitting a string and say, go execute this and whatever, I'm done. We're actually going to wait for a Boolean response to the standard confirm method that we have in JavaScript. And we're going to pass in to that method whatever string message we pass in. So back over here in home, stop it. Thank you. So I'm saying confirm, here's my message, remove the name of that pizza special from the order. So I'm even doing string interpolation to generate that string that I'm going to pass into JavaScript that's going to get executed in the browser. Based on what's returned. So if I get true coming back from that, I'll remove the configured pizza. So up here, I'll go find that X button. Here we go, on removed, right? Instead, I will say remove pizza. That pizza that we're looking at. So, hey there, how's it going? I see some folks joining us on YouTube. So, got that saved. It should have patched. Yes, go ahead and patch and reload. And we'll see this update in just a second as it finishes the build. Right? Yeah. So now when I click in and I put some pizzas in my cart, gosh, the Baconatorizer is too much for me. And I click the X. Now I get my confirm dialog. And it's the default browser confirm dialog, right? It's the JavaScript one that pops up. Remove the Baconator pizza from the order. And if I cancel, it stays there. And if I choose OK, it goes away. So I've taken a full trip, called into JavaScript, and had it return a value that my .NET code can act on, and it provides that rich interaction all the way through to JavaScript. So there was somebody earlier who was saying, gosh, I want to be able to change classes and things, and it feels weird to have to execute some JavaScript to do that. Let me come back and touch on that for a second. If I wanted to change, let's go into this component, right? And we were talking about being able to change a CSS class. So the component for the configure pizza dialog, here it is. Let's take the size label here, right? I can let's split this so we can see that. Where'd it go? Size, there it is. So I can put a class on this perhaps that says, and we'll call this, right, size label class. And I can add that as a property or a field down here if I'd like, right? String size label class, right? Gosh, look, I can even do different things with it if I'd like. I'm going to default it to string.empty. And right, as the size changes here, right, there's a bind, and it's binding to on input. Right, I could do some other things there to interact with that if I wanted. Let's you know what? No, I liked. Where'd that go? Let's change this. If it's less than 9, small, large, sure. Let's see what happens with that. It says it hot reloaded. So as I change this, yeah, it didn't. Those aren't doing anything, I don't think. Oh no, it did put the class large on it. All right, so let's update this just a second here, because we're doing a demo on the fly. So I'm going to reach into my site CSS, right? And let's have some fun with this. Dot pizza small, font size small, font weight normal, and if we have pizza medium, thank you. Font weight normal. Let's do an underline on text. Is it decoration? No. Oh, what's the italics? Thank you. And do font style normal. And then for pizza large, bold and large, bold and italic. Save that. It should hot reload the CSS. There we go. So as that changes, right, there's medium, and down here it's small. And it's updating that on the fly for me, right, as that updates. I didn't write, all I did was write that switch statement. So it's taking in the class, no JavaScript needed, and size label class. That's not even the way you spell label. What are you doing here, Fritz? No, that is right. I was right. I was right. And it just pivots between them, okay? I don't have to write any special code. It just knows how to do it. All right? Can we make that 14 instead? Just push it out a little bit. Did it... It says it reloaded, but I don't think it picked it up. I'll force it to refresh. There we go. So, there we go. There's the medium, and then there's the large. Okay, I can even put an alt out there if I want it, right? Or a title to go with this, right? Size title. String size title. That's a small pizza. You've got a family to feed. Why not order more? Now that's what I'm talking about. Why not try an American-sized jumbo pizza? Come on, suggest something funny there. There's more to be ordered if you'd like it. Right? And it will automatically add those titles. So, lots of options with being able to just push and pull variables natively in C# inside your Blazor component. This type of immediate interaction with writing a little bit of C# code and doing data binding and passing that into your components, it's a different way to think, because as JavaScript developers, as web developers, we think that when values need to change or we need to manipulate the DOM, we need to actually at that time reach into the DOM, grab a thing, and change it. If you initialize and set it with a C# variable, then you can change the variable and the DOM, the website, will update automatically. Okay? I like that little bit of a demo. I hope that makes sense to folks. I know there was a question about that a little bit earlier, and if there's any follow-up to that, let me know. But there you go. Demo on the fly here as we're talking about Blazor. Is that switch statement new to C#? The switch statement that you saw, it's a very functional bit of syntax there. This has been available for the last 2 or 3 versions, the last 2 or 3 years. You've been able to do that. So it's an easy syntax to learn. The only trick with it, right? So let's just recap a little bit of C# syntax. We're investigating this value to the left of the switch, curly braces surrounding your various conditions. This is a pattern match that it's doing. So less than or equal to, you can also provide specific values as well, but it's doing a pattern match. You must include the underscore catch-all statement. Typically, I think it's required to be at the bottom. This is a sieve. So if it doesn't match the first one, then it will go to the next one. So you can't if you put these in the wrong order, you might end up with it landing on the wrong ones. Each statement is separated by a comma. Okay? Could you reference variables to remove those magic numbers? I believe you could reference constants, but not variables. Private const int small pizza. Sure. Thank you. I believe because it needs to be a constant, right? I don't think you can, that you can't use a variable. It must be a constant. Can we do static read only? No. It must be a constant value. So to the question from Surly Dev, you can use variables to get rid of those magic strings so that you end up with the same values. Right? And of course, you would want to replace this with some sort of resource localization at some point also, right? You get the appropriate translations as well. Does that C# code run client-side or goes back using SignalR? Manoj, love the question. Thank you. This component doesn't have an indicator on it of where it should run, but it runs inside the home page here. So it's going to run in the same render state as the home page. And the home page runs as WebAssembly. It runs natively in the browser, no SignalR, does not go back and forth to the server. This is all live, the browser calculating and executing C# code. Now it's been compiled and delivered in there. So, can you look at properties using that switch syntax? Yes, you can. Yep. So, where'd it go? We were down there. You don't like my statement for the large one? Now that's what I'm talking about. Why not try an American-sized jumbo pizza? No fooling. There are some places here in the States that sell massive pizzas. These are Lorenzo's. That's the one I'm thinking of. No, I don't want to sign in. Yeah. Their pizza is literally bigger than 2 paper plates next to each other. Like, give me a size here. How big is Lorenzo? And I was trying to find... come on now. 28 inches. Which is 71 centimeters. Okay. Just obnoxiously large. That's not the same Lorenzo's pizza. I'm trying to find it. That's Charlotte. No. That's the thing from Yelp. Right, since we're talking about pizza, I mean, heck, right? Yeah, look at the size of that pizza. That's an American-sized pizza. So, Big Lou's with a 42-inch. There you go. There you go. Seriously, one slice of this is an entire dinner. It's ridiculous. It is a little bit ridiculous. Not gonna lie. So, there we go. Now we've talked about American-sized pizza. Ridiculous. Like, I appreciate that the cup sizes that we have at fast food restaurants and movie theaters here in the United States are obnoxiously larger than they are in the rest of the world. I appreciate that. Like when you go to McDonald's, Wendy's, Jack in the Box, whatever, and you ask for a large soda, large Coke, large Pepsi, it's a 32-ounce drink. When you go to a movie theater, they also have a jumbo size there that is 64 ounces. The human stomach is like 50-ounce capacity. Like, you literally can't drink the entire thing without getting up and going to the bathroom in the middle of a movie. Like, that's dumb. American medium-sized pizza in Europe, you call it family size. There you go, Mario. Yes. Good job. It's a demo because flying a drone over the Houses of Parliament are not very realistic. The 1 gallon big gulp. No, don't do that. What's my favorite pizza? So, unfortunately, I'm quite transparent about this. I have celiac disease, so I have to eat a gluten-free pizza. And pretty much everybody has the same gluten-free pizza. It's pretty much the same thing. There's a chain here in the States called Snap Pizza that makes a magnificent buffalo chicken pizza. So it's got the spicy buffalo sauce with chicken, mozzarella, and a little bit of blue cheese on top, and it's really nice. So that's my current favorite. 20-inch pizzas. Here in Brazil, you get to have really great pizza. Really, Robson? Okay. At some point, I'd love to get to Brazil. And then you have free refills. Oh, don't even get started on that. Yeah, the sugar rush and then the coma afterwards, Minogue. Your trip to Germany years back was quite the eye-opener how small the portions are. Yeah. Small, pre-diabetic, and guaranteed. I'm making you hungry, Target? I'm sorry. Pineapple-free pizza. Now, I do enjoy a pineapple pizza. You need to have it with the sweet sauce, though. A sweeter sauce. There's a place that bakes LCHF pizza. They bake it on a piece of aluminum foil. That's just wrong. Hawaii makes a very nice pizza. When you go to Hawaiian-style pizzas are nice. I used to think this about pineapple pizza as well. Try it. Try it. It's pretty good. All right, and now that we're hungry, we've got about 20 minutes left. I want to talk about building templated components. I want to get in and build a little bit more with other components that we can use to take advantage of and be able to reuse some of the tech that we've built inside this project, okay? Great example is this dialogue that we've built here. Hang on, let's scroll over here, right? We've got this dialogue that has a standard Bootstrap dialogue container with a title and a body and then a footer with some buttons in it. It'd be nice to be able to specify these components for a dialogue, for a modal dialogue that we want to present in a component somewhere, bring it back and be able to use that when we want to, if we want to build other dialogues. So let's build a little templated dialogue component that we can reuse here. All right. Welcome to the new Fritz and Friends Food Feast channel. Actually, I had a prepackaged. I've had several prepackaged food providers that have reached out and asked to sponsor my channel. Do I use VS Code or only main Visual Studio for Windows? I use both. Use Visual Studio Code for your work in C#. It doesn't work as good as full Visual Studio for Windows, says Dimitri on YouTube. Dimitri, I hear you. DevKit goes a long way with Visual Studio Code, And DevKit is maybe a year old. C# DevKit, it's getting better. They're improving it. They're iterating on it. Dimitri, I use Visual Studio Code all the time on my Mac and on my Linux laptop. I haven't used the Mac on stream in a while, but I use Visual Studio Code a bit as well. So, okay, let's turn this into a templated dialog so we can reuse the idea of a templated dialog here. So I'm going to go down into my Blazing Components library here, and I'm going to add a templated dialog here. I did Control-Shift-A to bring up the add window here, and I'm going to call this templated dialog.razor, and I'm going to copy in the initial markup that we had over here in the configure pizza dialog. For dialog container, we got a dialog, and we're going to eventually put a title and things in here. But I can start off with just saying, you know what, copy in all the child content of the templated dialog and place it inside here. So check this out. We know how to use code components, the code block. So I'm going to add this property to start with. And this is a standard property that's available that you can implement. And you have to give it these names. It's a render fragment. That's a block of HTML and Razor markup. And it's called child content. It must be called this. And what it will do is it will grab whatever content is between the begin tag and end tag and pass it in as this. And we can then put it inside of our markup. So I can just say, well, put the child content right there. So if I go back over to, I won't do that just yet. I'm going to add another property in here that says whether or not to show this content, right? So let's put in a parameter here, public bool, no, I'm going to call it show, get set. And what I can do to handle whether or not it's being shown is just wrap this and say if show, right? And it'll emit that content. Done. Right? Don't show anything else if it's not supposed to be shown. That's not bad, right? So I can then take this and go back over to my configure pizza dialog, and if I delete these outer divs here, right? And I can go back over to home. I can take that configure pizza dialog. Is that even in here? Yeah. I'm going to go over to home, and let's take this and wrap this with templated dialog. Right? I'm going to leave the full name there so that you see it. And I'm going to pass that in because I don't need that if statement. And I'll say show equals that value. Should we be showing the dialog? There it is, rebuilding in the background. Somebody was saying about hot reloading. There it is, patching and hot reloading. And now when I bring it up, it looks the same, but I'm reusing some of that templated capability. All right. Now, I could add capabilities here for us to specify the title, the body of the dialogue, and do a little bit more with that. Right. So if I exit out of here, how much time do we have? You know what? I'm not going to go further on this. We could add other properties in here so that title could be passed in. And we could manage this a little bit more and push some of these features around a little bit. So we had a footer with some buttons and whatnot. I'll leave that to you to check out and refactor a little bit. But we can also do templates for our components and allow you to pass in templates to render and specify how the content should run. I'm going to catch up on a couple questions here before I go into that demo. Mario on YouTube asks, can I use this Blazing Pizza one-to-one on a Maui app? Yes, you can. Is it complicated because SSR and WebAssembly rendering? Nope. Hey there, Hammer. How you doing? Sad that well, that's a question for JetBrains. I believe there's an education edition you can get for their product. You're welcome, Dimitri. Happy coding to you. So let's build a little bit of a template, a templated list. And I think we're going to do this on the list of orders in my orders. So if we go back to the my orders page, it's not there, it's here, my orders, right? So there's this outer main, and then we've got some loading text. If we don't have any orders, then we've got some default message here, and then we've got our list of pizzas that we're going to output. We can turn this into a template so that we get that nice loading message every time. So, and handle and present some sort of a prompt appropriately if there are no values in there. So let's start building a templated component where we can pass into it these directions of how to actually present that content. So I'm going to go back into components library, and I'm going to create templated list.razor. And for this, I don't know what type of object the template's going to interact on, so we can actually use this as a generic object and specify a type parameter. And typically you'll see type parameter is defined with this T item, right? Because it's a generic type, and we normally use that uppercase T in our generic objects to refer to generic items here. So let me create an initial block of code. I'll copy that in from outside here. So we're going to have a collection of items that we're going to present. We're going to have a loader method that knows how to go load that data. And on parameter sync here, if we do have a loader object function that's passed in, execute it and return that in the items collection. So let's just talk through this generic, make sure everybody gets it real quick. It's a func, so that's defining a method. It's a task, so it can run asynchronously if we'd like. That's a collection, a forward-only, read-only collection of some type of object. Okay? So we're passing in a method that can run asynchronously to bring back a collection of some type of object. So I have that. Let's put some little bit of markup up here. So let's start off with if our items collection is null, right? That's pattern matching. I'm going to do something here. That's not bad. That's not bad. Thank you, Copilot. I need a closing bracket there. There we go. So if we don't have any items, loading. If we don't have any items, for right now, let's just say no items. Otherwise, let's output a list group items, and just output whatever our item is. And we've got a basic templated list. Okay. But I want to be able to pass in and specify these appropriately from outside. We can do that with some more render fragments like we saw with the child content. But we can use render fragments also as a property variable type. check this out. Let me copy in just a few lines of code here. So I can pass in a render fragment for what the loading text should be. I can pass in another fragment for what the empty text should be. And I can pass in a render fragment of that item type that says, here's how to render that item. So now instead of passing that text, I can just say, output that render fragment. And output, what was it? Empty. And for this one down here, I can do a for each on those. Right? No, I was right. And let's move this up here. Move that down there. I can say item. And it will appropriately format and render with whatever template is passed in there. Okay. So now if I go back to there's a thing here to add a list group class. All right, fine. I'll add that last one here as another parameter. And on here, we'll also add list group class, right? Using the same technique we did earlier. So let's go back over to my orders. And just as I'm wrapping up here, right as we're getting to the end of time here. So I'm going to add a method. I'm going to update the method to load orders. Right, because where is it? In on parameter set? Yeah. I don't need that anymore. So instead of doing orders client, of course, we've got this. Because it runs on the server. There is no catch on that. And we can get rid of that. All right. So we'll have some orders there to return. Did I use? Yep. Okay. So I'll update up here. Where I have div class main, now I can say instead, no. Templated list. The loader is load orders. That's the name of my method. Right? And that should, yeah, there we go. So I could specify, let's just copy in the code for this so that I'm not writing it out. So here's my templated list. Loader is load orders. I'm also going to add the order list component. Here's my render fragments. It's a parameter. It's a child parameter, though. Loading, no orders placed, order some pizza. And then here's my item template. So it uses this context parameter to specify, here's the name of the variable that I'm going to use in the template. So I've got item, and it formats that item appropriately. So now when I save, go back over here, and it's running, right? And we look at my orders. Oh, no! Didn't put the breakpoints in there properly. Did I miss a div? Should have put breakpoints in there. What did you do? Call flex grow 0. Status. It didn't close. call. Those should all be within a larger item that I think is missing from this. Yeah, list group item. Get that right. Div class. Oh. Those should be inside. Let it hot reload. Did it? I didn't. It's not going to hot reload unless you save. Know what I mean? There it is. Now it's formatted properly. And I've got the same look and feel that I can use for that list component wherever, right? Fantastic. And that's how you use templates and can pass things around inside of that. And reuse the same look and feel for things, but give folks a little bit of control of what's inside of there. Func is a method that returns a value. That's right. Yep. Cool. Let me wrap things up. That was really good today. I enjoyed that. And quite frankly, I had a number of bugs that I was working through, and glad we got those cleared up along the way here. And happy to answer your questions and do those ad hoc demos on the fly. Thank you so much for joining me today. This video, this session, just like all the other sessions in the series, is available. That's the wrong intro. This one. There we go. This video is just like all the other ones in the series are available on the youtube.net channel. Look for the playlist, learn C# with CSharpFritz, and you'll see the rest of my teachings about Blazor, about C#, and all the various .NET frameworks. I won't be here next week. Like I said, I'm going to be out doing a visit to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, doing some charity work. The following week, I will be back, and we're going to talk about hosting our Blazor application. We'll be answering your questions. We're going to talk a little bit about Aspire that time also, and getting ready for the next series that'll start up after that, where we're going to be doing some Aspire demos starting middle of May, thereabouts. All right? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, check out all the great videos that we have on the YouTube channel here for you. They're just below, over here, or over there, somewhere like that. You can get the source code for this sample on the Blazing Pizza Workshop repository out on my GitHub. And for those of you that are watching on Twitch, it's time for a raid. Let's get a raid together, see who else is writing some code, maybe a little .NET code, maybe a little bit of fun that we can get you connected to have a good time out there. Let me join you over to, let's go over to the Microsoft Developer channel. They're doing a little bit of RAG development, a little bit of AI work over there. So I am going to join you over to their show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you join me tomorrow on the CSharpFritz channel on YouTube and Twitch. We're going to be building and working with Aspire. We're building a new website, a news website for Aspire, using Aspire, .NET technologies, and a little bit of Azure services. I hope you join me same time tomorrow, Twitch TV/CSharpFritz, YouTube.com CSharpFritz. But for now, we're going to go learn a little bit about AI and RAG, result augmented. I forget what the jingle is. Whatever. Have a great one, and I will see you then. I wish you good health and good coding. Take care.